like to welcome our Facebook followers and others who are interested in Phoenix American Motorsports to visit with us. I'm here with Kurt Rezzetano, who is co-driver with Andrew Aquilani in the lead car for Phoenix American Motorsports in the IMSA Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge series. They drive a GS class car. It's a Mustang Boss 302R, and they have been very, very quick in the early part of the season. Talking to Kurt about his career, I have learned a few things, and I know you started out in competitive motorsports as a really young person. Tell us a little bit about how young you were, what you started doing. Talk a little bit about how you got started with this.
Well, I started racing bikes when I was 4 years old. My dad got me my first motorcycle when I was 4, and we promptly started in motocross.
Really?
And it was just a sickness from then on. I never got out of it much more than that. It was always a every year thing. Started in early spring the whole way through winter time, and even sometimes we went throughout the winter racing bikes. And yeah, it really escalated from there quickly.
Morning. Happy Easter.
Thank you. And it was a good experience for me, just in growing as a person throughout. You know, the racing was a big part of our lives, a big part of my whole family.
Very good. And you and your dad would go to events together for a long time?
Yes, for a very long time. My dad was with me throughout my whole career. He really hasn't. He was with me everything through the bikes. You know, even when I was on a team and sponsored and everything, he still came with me the whole way through, and saw everything. Still worked on my bikes. Never stopped working on them. Always wanted to be very hands-on. And yeah, he was a big part, instrumental in teaching me how to race properly.
Now you were. What classes did you race in motocross? What class bikes did you race?
I raced Pee Wee 50s the whole way up through to 450s, ending on the 450A class. That was where I ended up. Raced 250A and 450A at the end, and did fairly well. Won a lot of local championships and things like that. So it was good. It was fun.
It's fun. And the motocross riding skills require a lot of obviously strength and physical agility, a lot of endurance, physical endurance. Can you talk a little bit about how those early skills that you developed have transferred over for you into driving road racing cars? How would you relate those things?
I think it really goes both ways. I think you can learn from both directions. I think the car racing is a lot more of a mental thing. It's very physical in the sense that you gotta be able to hang on for the whole race or your whole stint in the car. The bikes, it's a lot more physical, as far as being in shape endurance-wise and things like that, and dealing with other conditions, changing conditions constantly. But really, in a race car, it's the same thing. The track changes. You go through different, variations of grip levels throughout a race and things and such. So it's a little bit different as far as that goes. But as far as the racing itself, I feel like that carries over pretty easily. And learning how to just maintain and deal with different situations, whether it be the car fading or the bike fading, while you're racing. So
dealing with how the machine is changing as you're racing, as your stint on track, whichever track it is, continues on. How about you have excellent car control skills. Do you think that those reflexes and that sense of how to manage the car when it moves around underneath you, is that trying to transfer from motocross a bit?
Yeah, I think most of my car control skills have come from bikes, because the fast way around a motocross track is kind of to let the bike do what it wants and just let it kind of move around underneath you and not worry about so much controlling every little movement of what it does. The looser you can ride, the faster you end up. And in the car, especially the Mustang, it seems to carry over into that, because the car does like to move around a lot more. The slip angle is a lot higher, things like that. And just trying not to fight things that you don't need to fight. There's no sense in it. It really carries over into that.
So you're real comfortable carrying high slip angles, letting the car move, and still having the confidence to get power down quickly, and in that circumstance, that I can see that would be a big advantage for you. So now as you moved into road racing, I know you had a period of time where you drove cars in autocross,
yes,
solo competition. Can you talk a little bit about what that's like and how that relates to road racing? People may or may not be familiar with what autocross is and how it might or might not relate to road racing. Talk a little bit about that.
I really think autocross is a great first step for people to get into. I don't think it's something you should stay into forever, especially if you want to get into road racing. But it does give you a good idea of what a car is capable of. I think it's, being the situation that you're in, being in a huge parking lot with just cones basically as your only obstacle, being able to push it 10/10ths for a whole run, and having a limited amount of runs to put it together to bring up your skills in memorizing tracks, memorizing courses very quickly, and
you only get a short time to see the track in autocross, right?
Yep, you get the morning, basically just a walk. You can probably only walk the course about twice before it's over, and then you basically just have to go right out into your runs, and you usually get 4 or 5 heats to put it all together. So I think it kind of forces you into maintaining and learning, and excelling every run, trying to put it together without going too far, because every cone is a 2-second penalty. So I think it carries over a lot, and especially in just feeling what a car can do at its limit, in a controlled environment.
So learning some of the car control, the transfer of your bike skills to the car probably came from learning to move the car the way you want it in autocross.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Rotate it and use trail braking and all those things.
Yep.
Very interesting. Now you, in your road racing career, it hasn't been very long yet, but you've been very successful so far. I know you qualified for the SCCA runoffs in your first year in SCCA Majors competition last year in 2013. Can you talk a little bit about getting to the runoffs, and then people may or may not know that you in the runoffs at Road America last fall, you took the pole in Touring 2 in the class you're racing in.
Yep.
And and then came through in the race and had a podium finish. You just talk a little bit about what it was like to first get to the runoffs, and then how it was that how things came together for you to take the pole and end up on the podium.
Yeah. The season started out, actually, we had other plans of driving a T3 car originally, and the Mustang actually sitting right over my left shoulder here is the car that was sitting in the shop that we had sitting there that we were waiting to transfer back into a T2 car. We came across a drive line and we put it in, and I was lucky enough to get to drive it at Summit Point for my first national last year. We actually had to make a couple phone calls to make sure I was allowed to drive in that series, and we drove that, and we ended up doing pretty well. We had no idea where we were going to end up compared to the Corvettes, because we knew the Corvettes were going to be very dominant, and I was lucky enough to have 2 really fast guys to race against with Dave Sanders and Matt Milano. Those 2 were great.
So you were talking a little bit about the process of getting that car ready and the first race or 2 at Summit Point, and then after that.
Yep. Yeah, we moved on to racing at New Jersey. We raced there, and kept just developing the car as we went throughout the season. Trying to figure out what we needed to get the car to be a championship-ready car, and we did very well at Summit. We finished on the podium both days, second and third there. We finished second both days at New Jersey. Coming close to the Corvette, but just knowing we needed a little bit more out of the Mustang to get to their level as far as tire wear and things went like that. And then we went to Watkins Glen, and we were lucky enough to get a win on Saturday. Had a really good battle with Matt Milano there, and we got second on Sunday after we had a little bit of a skirmish in that race too. So it was good. We were really close speed-wise. We knew it was
pretty good racing.
Closer, yeah. So, and then getting to the runoffs, I mean, we had a plan getting there. I had to learn the track. It was my first time at Road America, so I knew I had to learn it quickly and try to get the track down quick so I could get a good qualifying spot, because there's such a large field at the runoffs that you don't want to be behind on the start by any means. And I knew the Corvettes had a lot of top speed at Road America, so luckily I got a good clean lap on like my 4th lap in the first qualifying session, and we got a fast enough time we could just sit on it for the rest of the week and not have to worry about trying to set any other times. And we went out and we started on pole, and it worked out pretty well from there.
It really, really did. So that must have been an amazing experience to end up on the pole and then on the podium in your first runoffs experience. It's really pretty amazing. So that you're talking a little bit about the car and how you prepared it and switching the driveline and so on. Kind of brings up this one of the things that's a little bit unique about you and Andrew is that you have great skills in race car construction and race car development, in addition to your driving skills. Can you talk a little bit about how those 2 things relate to one another? How do you see them sort of informing one another? What makes one help the other?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, I mean, if you're a driver in a car, especially at a pro level, it's really hard to translate that information over to the crew, and especially to get them to understand exactly what you mean about, you know, what the car is, how it's behaving, or how, you know, it's doing a certain thing that you don't like about it. If you work on the car, if you actually build them, and you understand all the different pieces that go into it, I feel like you can make a smarter assessment of how you drove it. If there is anything you can actually change to change how the car behaves, or if it's just something that's built into the car. So if you're disconnected like that, and you have to try to translate that every session to a crew chief or somebody that actually knows how to work on it, then it slows down that development process. I feel like if in mine and Andrew's case, we can hop out of the car and say exactly the adjustment we want, change, or we can do it ourselves on it and get the result that we're looking for. So it's a big help.
Yeah, I guess it also gives you a real advantage in going over data that comes from the car with a race engineer who, for example, we work with Jeff Fight in our team in IMSA, and you have the ability to communicate directly with him in engineering language about what's going on in the car.
Yeah, and beyond the engineer is just even like with Penske, with our shock partner, you go straight to them with our information straight from the driver's mouth. It's just so much easier for us to tell him what we're feeling, what we think we want different in the shocks if we want to change anything, and that makes that process that much easier for him, because he knows he's getting good information. He knows he's getting it from the guys that drive it, and that we understand what he's talking about when he's talking about the shocks with us.
Very cool. Now, you've been driving over parts of 2 seasons now in the Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge. It's obviously a very competitive professional series. Talk a little bit about what that's been like and what your experiences have been driving with these other very excellent drivers, especially young drivers, but drivers of all ages. What's that been like?
Oh, it's been amazing to be able to drive at that level and with that type of competition, and all being in cars that are very similar in pace. It's very interesting. It makes you focus a lot harder on what you're doing when you're in the race car, as far as being consistent, being smart, about your moves that you make, and there's not a lot of slack given, and if you make a stupid move somewhere, they're very on top of you. So I think it really makes you focus on your driving a lot better, and it really improves you everywhere, especially when we come to at races like the SCCA races. I feel like I drive that much better, that much more confident in what I'm doing. So it's a big help, and anytime you can get in the race car, it's great. And it seems like we do get a lot of track time, with the Continental Series. So, and being in that type of a car with that tire, I think it makes you excel that much quicker.
And it plays to your strengths too, in the sense that we're driving a car that you kind of explained to me early on is under-tired for its power and cornering performance. And it is a car control exercise all the time in these cars. It really is.
Car control and tire management.
Tire management, absolutely. Can you talk a little bit about the differences between the Mustangs that you drive that we drive in the IMSA series and the Mustangs that we drive in SCCA competition, in the Touring 2 class especially? How are they similar? How are they different?
Okay, the SCCA car, is pretty basic. It's essentially a street GT 5-liter that we take and strip it down on the inside, put a roll cage, all the safety equipment in it, but it still has a dashboard. It still has all the gauges in it and everything like that, and it has all the same suspension straight out of a Ford racing catalog. The control arms, all that kind of stuff in the front are stock. We just put the Penske shocks on it. It has a spec spring package, so the front and rear springs are specified in the GRC, and that's all you're allowed to run. And the sway bars and all the are all spec. The Grand Am car, you're allowed to do whatever you want, spring rate and sway bar wise. So in the shocks, there's infinite adjustment in that car as far as that goes. But that car, really suspension wise, hard part wise, is like control arms and things like that. Pickup points are all the exact same. So a lot of those things, setup things, kind of transfer over outside of the springs and the sway bars. So they drive very differently because of the tires, and the Grand Am or the IMSA car has a lot bigger brakes on it. It has a lot more high-tech braking system as far as the ABS goes. It's adjustable. bull. It has a lot bigger front and rear brakes on it, so the braking capability is a lot higher. But it's, the tires are a lot less traction. The grip in SCCA with the T2 car, because of running the Hoosier tire, it's a lot bigger tire. The grip level is a lot higher on the tire. But it's just, I feel like the IMSA car has a lot more mechanical grip built into it, whereas these cars just have it a lot more through the tires, so.
One of the things that's interesting, people might who drive standard shift cars might be interested in the difference in our shifters between the two cars. They're quite different.
Oh yeah. The IMSA car has a full race transmission with a direct drop-in shifter. These cars have a linkage shifter that's a stock. It comes in the GT, and they are worlds apart. The clutch is a lot heavier duty in the IMSA car. The engine's a Roush built, 5-liter, makes a lot more horsepower. A lot more high-strung, 8,000 rev limit compared to 7,000 with the T2 car. So the powertrain's a lot more, sturdy, a lot more beefed up in the IMSA car. That's for sure.
For endurance racing, absolutely.
Yep.
And the SCCA racing is by definition essentially sprint racing.
Yes.
And the IMSA racing is endurance racing.
Yep.
Of the types.
Yep.
Now, in terms of your going forward and your future in sports car driving and other driving, how do you see this season so far, and how do you see yourself progressing over the next 5 years? Where would you like to see yourself in 5 years in sports car driving?
Well, I'll start with this season. This season's been great for me personally in SCCA. I think we've been doing a great job with the T2 car. We won 2 at Atlanta. We won 1 yesterday here. So I think we've been doing, knocking them down with that car. I think it's really performing well. We had all last year to develop it and kind of knock out all the kinks. And this year in IMSA, I feel like we really progressed, leaps and bounds since early testing. I think the car is completely different than what it was. I think it was, it's a lot faster. It's got a lot more speed in it. It's got a lot more durability in it as far as keeping the tires and the brakes on it. So the good part is we're not struggling for speed by any means. I think we just need to get through the races without incident. Like we had a couple gremlins that caught us at Sebring, but that was just the nature of the track. So
it's a very
things
rough track,
like that.
And things break at Sebring that don't break anywhere else.
Exactly. So and that was a tough lesson to learn, but we'll take our lumps and move on and learn from it, and we'll just keep making the cars more and more bulletproof as we've done, and we'll be fine. I think it will go on a string of wins here at the end of the season for sure.
I hope so. Talk a little bit about where you see yourself going in over a period of 3 to 5 years in sports car racing. Where would you like to, if you saw your career go the way you'd like and progress? Where would you like to be in 5 years?
I would love to keep building this up and what we've been doing. I'd like even to make the SCCA program even bigger than what we have it now. And the IMSA stuff, I would love to keep making that larger and keep making it better and better, and try to find more support and things like that, and just keep progressing in that, because I think that series is going to be around for a long time.
It seems very popular with fans. It's popular with drivers because of the level of competition, and there have been some growing pains with the merger into the United Sports Car series, but I think it certainly has great potential. We're all very hopeful for it.
Yep.
Well, Kurt, I really appreciate your taking the time to talk with us and talk with our fans and followers on Facebook and elsewhere, and we wish you the best of luck the rest of the way.
Thank you very much, sir.
Right. Take good care.